Well, for me, certified ethical hacker was a little bit different than most people's journeys. For me, it came a little bit later in my career. I had been working in IT for about 10 to 12 years, and I had just recently made the transition to information security. And having been an information security architect for a few years, I kind of wanted to prove to myself that I knew my stuff, and the CEH was the method of me proving that to myself. Additionally, I wanted to start building up my certification base as I was looking to become a security officer at an organization. Up to that point, I had concentrated in defensive security. I've been configuring firewalls, working on antivirus, everything that you would expect from a systems administrator, but I had never really concentrated on the offensive side of security. And the CEH was a way for me to learn more about the offensive side and actually practically apply it. I believe that anybody successful in tech must be a lifelong learner. And the CEH was a way for me to increase my knowledge set. Ultimately, having been concentrating in defensive security, I didn't fully understand the different ways that attackers and threat actors would try to compromise a network. The CEH class that I took and eventually the certification was a way for me to better learn how those tools work so I could better defend against the attacks that came with them. I'd say that war hacking is probably my favorite part. Being able to take a USB device, plug it into my laptop, and for better or worse, be able to compromise any Wi-Fi network, as long as it didn't have some kind of certificate-based authentication. Which, needless to say, I only did it during the class and only for the test network that we had in place. But I think that opened my eyes to how easy it really is to compromise most networks, as the vast majority of Wi-Fi out there isn't certificate-based on security. They simply just use WPA2 or something of that nature, which, for better or worse, is very easy to attack and hack. In my organization, I wouldn't say so much. We do have a pretty lean security team, and I'm the one who runs it. A CEH is something that I would like to see potential hires have coming in, especially if they're going to be on the red team. But ultimately, I would say that we don't have a very large team, and the CEH is a bonus more than anything else. And the market out there, I would say most people, from what I've seen, are looking for the CEH as an entry-level certification to kind of get your feet wet in security, especially if you're going to be going into the offensive side. And so if you're going to be working in penetration testing or some kind of red teaming exercise or even purple teaming, then the CEH shows that you understand some of the methodologies of being the attacker side of the fence. And right now, there's a very large, extremely large lack of security talent out there in the world. And the CEH is a perfect way for, I think, most people to get their foot in the door and start their career in the offensive side of security. When I took the CEH class and I got the certification, it was when I worked for the state of Arizona, and I'd like to believe that some of the things that I learned in that class were things that I immediately put into place to protect the people and the workers of the state of Arizona. So I can't say that I gave back tons, but I feel like I gave back at least a little bit in being able to be more effective in my job as a security engineer for the state. I feel like my journey is a pretty common one. During the beginning of my career, I worked as a small business consultant, working on systems of anywhere between 100 and 300 people within the organizations. A lot of it was working on, say, Windows Active Directory, Linux, Macs, workstations, printers, pretty much anything that you'd expect from an IT perspective. And I eventually realized that there's always going to be new technologies out there, and you're always having to chase that new tech. And I wanted something that I felt was a little bit more stable with the work that you're working with. And security really called out to me. And I eventually made that transition to become a security engineer instead of the sysadmin. And I find it just much more interesting because instead of trying to help individuals just get their computers working or get servers backups working, you're working to defend an organization against attackers, whether external or internal. And you're trying to harden the process. And I'm a process wonk. I absolutely love trying to improve existing processes to harden them from a security perspective. So making that transition, I think, was probably the best transition I've made in my career. And not too soon after I got my CEH, I got my CISSP, and then I made the migration from being an architect to being a manager. And there's really been no going back from there. I transitioned into the cloud from a hybrid architecture, and now I'm kind of a cloud security specialist. And I'm now on my 4th information security program I'm building, the last 3 being for SaaS companies. And I feel like I'm in a really good sweet spot when it comes to cybersecurity and the cloud together, as both of those are high in demand. And honestly, every day I'm dealing with something new. And that's one of the greatest things about security, is you're having to work with every department, every process to some extent, to understand how they're dealing with data and to making sure that they don't have an undue amount of risk with how they handle that data. And whether it's working with engineers on building out architectures for networks to make sure they're more protected, or working with finance people to make sure that their process has appropriate separation of duties, being an InfoSec is always a challenge, always a journey, and it's always very exciting.